Step aside Princeton, Plainsboro, Atlas's trauma team is more than qualified to handle your every medical need. The latest installment in the Trauma series branches out into new territory, allowing players to go beyond the operating table into various facets of patient care. These new gameplay elements are just what the doctor ordered, fusing mechanics from past Trauma games while taking a page from the Ace Attorney series. Is the long-term prognosis good, or should you seek out a second opinion?
Her heart rate is elevated.
Welcome to Resurgam First Care, where major medical emergencies are as common as the cold. You'll step into the shoes of one of 6 different specialists, each with their own unique plots that unfold in a linear nature, though you can also jump between stories at any time. It's a definite departure for the series, and there's more narrative than ever. It's a good ensemble piece too, with memorable characters and lively, albeit sometimes cheesy dialogue.
Sir, are you all right?
But the real payoff is that the plot lines are interwoven, giving you more insight as you play through them all. Whereas having flexibility in terms of progression can sometimes weaken a story, Trauma Team's approach preserves its potency. Going back and forth in the chronology in a Tarantino-esque fashion keeps things interesting from start to finish. And though there's still a supernatural element that feels superfluous, the story doesn't disappoint. Whereas the previous Trauma Center games were all about the surgeries, Trauma Team mixes things up by allowing you to hop between various roles over the course of the game. There are several different jobs to take on, and they all break down into 2 styles, variations of the traditional surgery and investigations that tap into your inner House or Phoenix Wright. The best part is that you can switch between them at any time, so if one style isn't to your liking, you aren't forced to endure it. It's a much needed change for the series, and it pays off nicely. Though the mechanics may vary between each activity, the rules stay the same. You have to successfully complete each chapter without making too many mistakes or taking too long. If things get too difficult, you can adjust the difficulty setting, which gives newcomers a chance to enjoy the game while allowing for a decent challenge for skilled players. The co-op option from New Blood also makes a return, allowing players to either take turns or work together in real time during several of the surgery segments. Playing Doctor will last you a dozen or so hours, though you can spend a few more in the clinic, picking up better ranks on each chapter to unlock new content. And though the online leaderboards don't make a return, you won't miss them.
Cautiously continue on.
Whether it's pointing out abnormalities in an MRI or performing advanced orthopedic surgery, Trauma Team makes full use of the Wii Remote Nunchuck. The more engaging activities are found in the traditional surgery segments, where you experience the frenzy of the ER with a virtual life on the line. True to life, you'll need a steady hand and nerves of steel to make precise incisions, sew cross-stitches, and inject fluids in a timely manner. While the motion controls work well, there are times when mistakes can be chalked up to more than human error. Toggling between your tools with the nunchuck is relatively quick, but it's also easy to select the wrong option. Many of your tools are very simple and straightforward to use, but occasionally the game introduces a new mechanic without sufficient explanation. Trauma Team also allows you to control the camera at times, which makes operations much more manageable, though certain portions have fixed angles that hinder the experience. As for the forensic and diagnosis segments, they fall more or less in line with the point-and-click mechanics of contemporary crime novel games. They play out at a much slower pace, and many of the tougher situations will really force you to pick your brain. But the logic behind some of them is a little suspect. Not being able to look at images side by side during diagnosis will also drive you mad.
That's it!
Trauma Team might not be the most refined or original experience on the Wii, but it certainly makes great use of the motion controls. No, you're not having a case of deja vu. Trauma Team looks virtually identical to its 2 Wii predecessors, with only a few slight improvements.
Don't you ever talk about my past again.
The cutscenes and backdrops still rely on 2D artwork with minimal animation, while the surgery segments contain the same sterile-looking 3D models as before. It's akin to something you'd see in an arcade, and given the subject matter, the game is oddly light on blood. The visuals are nothing spectacular, but they've worked for the previous games, and that's no different here. The fully spoken dialogue holds up well for the main cast, though the side characters sound bland and monotonous.
Victim is Dennis Taylor, 30-year-old male.
And while the music that plays at the start of every surgery session is just as out of place as ever, the rest of the soundtrack is pretty good. Quite a few rehashes made it in, but at least they've been slightly updated. The sound effects are comical, though the sound of crunching bones when moving broken limbs will make you cringe.
Hey, don't go crazy with that drill.
Don't be ridiculous!
Trauma Team is a step in the right direction for the series, adding new elements to keep things fresh while managing to preserve what's worked well. Veterans are going to enjoy it, and there's something for everyone with a variety of jobs. After this consultation, our diagnosis is to at least check this one out, especially considering the discounted price.